If you ask me, Japan has always been known for coming out with some bizarre ideas and trends, some of which seem to fascinate us or even catch on here in the United States. Others, well, are just downright weird. Both can be said about the 3DS eShop download game Tokyo Crash Mobs. It may be one of the 3DS's weirdest games to date, but if you get past that, as well as some other flaws about the game, then consider yourself in for a real treat from the 3DS eShop. The game is supposed to tell a story, but you just can't understand what's going on with all the highly subtle cutscenes. Players are introduced to two girls named Grace and Savannah, completely different from each other, who cross paths in Tokyo, Japan. They are somehow given the power to fend off and clear mobs of people called scenesters by throwing and rolling other scenesters of the same color clothing to eliminate them. Grace's goal is to be one of the first 10 people through the door, I guess for a sales promotion? Savannah's goal is to clear all the scenesters before they reach a button that sends Savannah plummeting into what seems like a bottomless pit or vortex. Weird. I will have to note that until now, I haven't seen any use of live action footage and real life actors for a video game. It's a pleasure to see it being used again, but apparently they used one guy to make multiple guy scenesters and one girl for multiple girl scenesters. Nintendo definitely could have used a few more actors to portray the scenesters. Besides, what kind of a mob has only one kind of boy and one kind of girl? The gameplay itself is really fun, and similar to this game that I remember my brother playing on an airplane flight called Zuma's Revenge. Tokyo Crash Mobs adapts the same gameplay style and adds some of its own wacky gameplay features. For example, there are big balls that get passed down the line that you can pop to get rid of scenesters caught in its explosion. You can use items such as a barrier to temporarily stop lines from moving, and a multicolored umbrella to make red and blue umbrellas appear over scenesters for easier combos. And then there are things that the scenesters frequently do that put a lot of pressure on you. Some scenesters would cut in line in an attempt to throw your strategy off. Others would blow their whistles to get the lines to move faster and closer to the buttons. You alternate between Grace's throwing levels and Savannah's rolling levels between each day, and both gameplay styles are controlled completely with the touchscreen and the stylus. This is where the biggest problem with Tokyo Crash Mobs lies. The controls work pretty well, but with touch-based controls being the only way you can navigate through and play the game itself, it puts tons of stress on the wrists. Nintendo really should have given the option to aim with a circle pad and launch scenesters with any of the A, B, X, and Y buttons, which would fit more perfectly in the player's hands. If not, then they could have at least assigned a button to activate items instead of holding your stylus on the touchscreen to do so. Plus, during Grace's throwing levels, you can only see a portion of the long lines that you have to clear, limiting the player's overall strategy by which to complete a level. If players were able to see the entire line, then they wouldn't have this problem. And then there's the map you see on the touchscreen during gameplay. They should have colored the dots in so that we can see what color scenesters are where in the lines. Without it, I found myself getting slightly dizzy from constantly looking at the top screen just to see what color scenesters I'm dealing with. With each level you complete, you are given a score and an overview of how you achieved it, and are rewarded with a medal based on it. I would mostly get bronze medals on my first time playing through this game. It's disappointing enough to win a bronze medal instead of a silver or gold. In Tokyo Crash Mobs, adding pictures and animations of Grace and Savannah hanging their heads in shame when you win bronze medals annoys me. Almost to the point that I did not want to keep on playing. And how does Nintendo expect me to strategize for a high score when I'm not clued in on how to do so until I complete a level? Either Nintendo should have done this to make the game easier to adjust to, or the learning curve should have been adjusted to make the game easier for players to get used to before they take strategies for bonus points into account. The game takes you through 21 levels, not counting the levels found in the more challenging Black Notebook mode, unlocked upon completing the game. These 21 levels are divided into weeks, with Grace and Savannah joining forces on the last day of each week to defeat Scenester ninjas. Having to aim with a stylus then touch an icon on the screen to throw or roll a ninja orb takes some accuracy away from the player. Fortunately, the alternate motion control style exclusive to these boss stages, in which you aim by turning your 3DS left and right and press the A or B buttons to throw and roll, feels more one-to-one and accessible to the player. This is my preferred control style. There are a few additional places where Tokyo Crash Mobs really could have been better. The game could have told a better story instead of leaving us with very subtle cutscenes that really don't tell a story at all. There has to be at least a decent plot and some character development for Grace and Savannah so that players can immerse themselves in the game just a little bit more. And the movie maze feature is nothing but inconvenient. Why would I have to go through a bunch of other movies just to get to the one I want when I could just be given the freedom to watch whatever movie I want whenever I want? And why not add at least some degree of multiplayer? I don't see any reason why the game shouldn't have it. Multiplayer co-op to clear scene stairs together, or competitive multiplayer to see who clears them out first would have worked. All the flaws mentioned in this review sadly caused the game to miss the mark from being even a good 3DS download game. Tokyo Crash Mobs can only be said to be enjoyed in short doses, aimed more at the casual gamer. Even so, the game could have been better, but otherwise a pretty solid game. And that's why Tokyo Crash Mobs, rated E for everyone, gets a decent 7 out of 10.